Hi, I'm Lane from the Pelican Crew, and this video is for those people that are new to the hobby of modern board gaming. In this video, we're going to take a look at several games that are some of my favorites and are also great gateway games or introductory games for people new to the hobby. We'll take a look at these games and discuss some of the components and mechanisms that make them such great gateway games. So the first game we're going to take a look at is Ticket to Ride. This game was designed by Alan R. Moon and is published by Days of Wonder. This came out over a decade ago, 2004, looks like, somewhere around in there. So this game's been around and has stood the test of time. Ticket to Ride is a simple game. Basically, on your turn, you can only do one of three things. You can draw some train cards, you can play a route, or get some more destination tickets. Now, you'll use the train cards in your hand to claim the routes. For instance, Denver to Oklahoma City has got 4 rectangular red train spots. So, if I have 4 red cards, or 3 red cards in a wild, because the wilds can count as any color, then I can use my trains and claim that route and score those points on the board. Now, that's it. That's it for my turn. It's the next player's turn. He might just draw some cards. Boom. Next player. He draws some cards. There's no hand limit to how many cards you can have. And the next player, he decides to play a route. So the turns go real quick. Now, you can also get some more destination cards. But you got to be real careful, because if you don't complete those destination tickets at the end of the game, you will lose those points. So that is not a complete summary of the rules or anything, but just a brief overview of how the game is played. It's quick, it's fast, you can only do one of 3 things on your turn, so it keeps everybody engaged. Ticket to Ride. Another game I'd like to talk about is For Sale. This game was designed by Stefan Dorz and is published by Eagle Gryphon Games. It's a bidding game. Basically, there's going to be 2 rounds of bidding. The first round, you're bidding on various properties, and then in the second run, you're using those properties to get the best deals that you can with the checks that are on the table. It's a quick game, lasts 20 to 30 minutes, it says on the box, sometimes shorter than that. Once you play it, people want to play it again and again. This game has not disappointed whenever I brought it to the table. For Sale. Let's take a look at the components. In For Sale, to set up the game, each player will get either $14,000 or $12,000 in these tokens, depending on how many players. In a 6-player game, everybody starts the game with $14,000. Once the money's handed out, you'll take the property deck. You might have to remove a couple of cards, depending on the number of players, and you'll shuffle them up, and you'll lay them out. You'll lay out a card for each player in the middle of the table. So, let's just say it's a 6-player game. We'll lay out these 6 cards. The cards number from 1 up to 30. And there are 30 cards, so there's no repeating numbers. And when the game starts, the first player will have to bid an amount. Any amount that he wants out of is $14,000. Say $1,000. Now the next player, he can do one of 2 things. He can either bid also or pass. If he bids, he has to bid at least greater than the previous bid. So in this case, $2,000, and so forth. If you pass, then you have to take the lowest numbered card. So in this case, you would get the 1. So it's going to go around. People are going to be bidding if they want to bid, and it's going to keep going around the table until everybody has passed except for 1 player, who will get the last card. If you pass also, just say this player bid 3 and he passes, so he has to take the 1, but he will also get half his bid rounded down. In this case, he would be able to keep 1,000, but he'd lose the 2,000, and that card is his. When it comes to the final player, he has to pay the full bid amount. He doesn't get that half discount. Once all the cards in the deck have been allocated to the different players, you will take the currency card deck, shuffle them up, remove a certain number of cards depending on how many players there are, and you'll place them out just like you did with the properties. Now the currency cards range from 0 to 15,000. All right. That's the minimum and the maximum of the cards. So we'll put out the 6 cards. Once these 6 cards are played out, players will take their hand of properties that they won from the previous round, and each player will take a card and place it face down in front of them. And once every player's done that, you will simultaneously reveal the cards, and the highest player number will get the highest amount. So in this particular case, the 29 gets the 15,000. The 25 would get the 13,000. The 20 would get the 11, and the 5,000. I'm sorry, the 11 would go to the 24. The 5,000 would go to the 20, and the 0 would go to the 1, and the 4,000 to the 18. And you'll keep going until you run out of the currency cards. Once the currency cards are done, everybody will total up their currency cards for their score, plus any tokens they have remaining from the previous round, and the player with the most money wins the game. Simple as that. For sale. So the next game I'd like to talk about is Splendor. Splendor was designed by Marc Andre and is published by Space Cowboys. This game you can find at Target, a lot of different places. This is a very popular game. It's been out for quite a while. In this game, you are playing a merchant leader, and you're collecting tokens which represent gems, and you're using these gems to buy different cards on the table, which will give you discounts for additional purchases. You're basically building sort of a card engine as the game progresses. And the cards are in 3 different rows. The winner of this game is the first one to reach a certain number of points. I believe that was 13 points or 15 points. I can't remember. But let's take a look at the game. So this is the setup for a 3-player game of Splendor. The game comes with 3 different decks of gem cards, and what you're going to do, you're going to take each deck and put it to the side here, and you're going to draw out 4 cards from each deck. Now, the decks are different. They've got little dots on them, 1, 2, and 3, and that shows the value of those cards. These with the 3 dots, they're harder to purchase, but they're often worth more points. You will also put out a number of noble tiles equal to the number of players plus 1. Since this is a 3-player game example, I've put out 4 noble tiles. The winner of the game is the first person to reach 15 prestige points. To get those points, you want to buy these cards or earn these noble tiles to where your total becomes 15, at which point you will play the final round. On your turn, you can do one of 3 actions. You can either collect gem tokens, you can buy a card, or you can reserve a card. To collect gem tokens, because you'll need the gem tokens to buy the cards, if you want to collect gem tokens, you can do 3 of a different color, or 2 of the same color, as long as there's at least 4 in that stack. So if I wanted 2 whites, there'd have to be at least 4 when I took those 2 whites. And once you get those gems in front of you, like let's just say on my turn I take a white, a blue, and a green, it'll be the next player's turn. And they'll go around collecting gems. So I might have my eye on this card, which on the card itself, it shows that it's a red gem card, but to buy it, I need 2 whites, 1 blue, 1 green, 1 brown. So when it comes back to me, I might take another white, and then a brown, because I don't have one of those, and I guess maybe just another green. So we'll put these in front, and when you place these in, when you put the chips in front of you, it's got to be to where everybody can see what you have. There's also a limit to the number of gem tokens that you're allowed to have. You cannot have more than 10 of these tokens. Otherwise, you have to discard them down to 10. So then it might come back to my turn. If this card is still out there, I can say, I'm buying this card. So you put it in front of you. It takes 2 whites, a blue, a green, and a brown, and you return these to the gem stacks, and you now own that card. You'll also flip over another card to replace that card, and it goes to the next player. One of the things about the gym cards is they will give a discount for purchases. So from here on out, for the rest of this game, if a card costs 5 gym tokens and 3 brown, I only really need 4 gym tokens because I've already got one here. So if I have, for the game, for example, if I've got 4 reds and this gym card here, and I had my 3 blacks, I could then take this card and it would give me 2 victory points. And the third and final action that I have a choice of doing is I could reserve a card. If I reserve a card, I can pick any card that I want out here and just say I am reserving that card. So let's just say I'm going to reserve this card. Now I can't afford the card, but I can still reserve it. I put it over here and I put it to the side, and then I get a gold token. We will also replace that card up there. Now the gold token is a wild card, basically. It works like a wild gem. So if I have, if I need 4 red gems for this particular card, and I've only got 3, I can play my 3 gems, or with the discount cards that I have, plus the wild. Now you're only allowed to have 3 reserve cards. And these cards don't give you any benefit because you haven't actually bought them yet. But on your turn, when you're buying a card, you can buy your reserve card, but nobody else can. So it's also a way of protecting a card. So at the end of your turn, with the noble tiles, you cannot buy the noble tiles with gems and cards. Use only cards. So this one here is worth 3 points, but it says you need 4 blue cards and 4 white cards. So when I do my action, let's just say I buy this card or whatever, and it turns out that I've got 4 blues cards and 4 white cards, then I automatically also collect that noble. You can only collect 1 noble per turn, and the nobles are not replaced. And this noble will give me 3 bonus points. Once somebody reaches 15 prestige points, you will play that final round and then total up the scores, and the person with the highest score wins the game. And that is Splendor. So the next game I want to showcase is Air, Land, and Sea by John Perry and published by Arcane Wonders. This is a small 2-player game. This box contains 18 cards, a couple of tokens, and 3 bigger cards representing the 3 different theaters: air, land, and sea. Not much to the components of this game, but man, it's a lot of fun. Every time this is hit the table, people are amazed that there's so much game packed in such a small little box. After you play it a few times, you realize there's different strategies, and does that person have this card? You'll hold on. Should you withdraw from the battle? Should you fight to the end? The winner of this game is the first one to reach 12 points. And each round or battle, you can score up to a maximum of 6 points. Less if your opponent withdraws early. So you're going to play at least 2 battles per game, usually 3 or 4. And it's a lot of fun. Let's take a look at the components. Air, Land, and Sea is a simple 2-player card game where you're going head-to-head with your opponent. Each player is going to have some cards in their hand, and what you're trying to do is get the most strength in 2 out of the 3 theaters at the end of that battle. And there's different things you can do. If you play a card, you have to play it in its theater, so I get 1 point there. Plus, there's some special abilities on some of the cards. I can play one, on my turn, I can play it there, and so forth. Now I can also improvise, which means I take a card and place it face down in any theater that I want, whether it matches that theater or not. This is a land 4, but I'm going to play it as a air 2. And during the game, there's some powers that allow you to flip cards, so if this gets flipped, I now have 4 points in air, even though this is not an air card. And that's known as improvising. So at the end of that round, whoever has the most points in a particular theater, because your opponent's going to be playing his cards on his side, so whoever has two or more theaters wins that round. If there's a tie, depending on which commander you are, if you're the first player or the second player, the first player wins ties. So you'll win that battle. You'll get 6 points. You will switch commanders. So now he will go first. You'll shuffle the cards, deal them out, move the theaters, and play another round. The first player to 12 wins the game. If you withdraw early, again, if you withdraw early, your opponent will get fewer than 6 points. So the quickest you can play this game is at least 2 rounds. But oftentimes it goes for 3 or 4 because one player will say, you know what, I can't win this battle. I'm going to go cut my losses early and try again with the next battle. And as you go, you will rotate the theaters because some of the cards have special powers that affect adjacent theaters and so forth. And that's air, land, and sea. The next game I'd like to show y'all is Sushi Go. This is a card drafting game for 2 to 5 players, published by Gamewright. It's a lot of fun. You can find this at Walmart and Target, and it's out there. And don't let the cartoon look to it. There's a lot of game in this. Let's take a look. In the card game Sushi Go, the winner of the game will be the person with the most points at the end of the game. The game will consist of 3 rounds. Each round, you will deal out a number of cards, depending on how many players there are. In a 3-player game, I believe there's 9 cards for each player. So, once each player has their hand of cards, they will look at their card, and they will play a card, face down, and then all will reveal simultaneously. Once that's done, you'll take your hand and pass it to the player on your left. You'll get the hand from the player to the right, and the play will continue. You will then play another card and hand your hand over to the player to your left. All the cards are played simultaneously at the same time there, and at the end of that round, once all the cards have been played, you will total up your score. The cards are very interesting. You have wasabi. I might be mispronouncing some of these, so forgive me. But it says, if the next nigiri card I play is worth 3 times its value. So salmon nigiri, I could play on top of the wasabi, which the salmon is normally worth 2, but now, because of the multiplier of 3, I've got 6. Some cards, like dumplings, if you have 1 dumpling, at the end of that round, you get 1 point. If you have 2 dumplings, you get 3 points, and so forth. There's also maki rolls. Whoever has the most maki rolls at the end of that round gets 6 points, and the second highest number of maki rolls gets 3. And then finally, there's the pudding. Now, the pudding you hold on to till the end of the game. When you play it, at the end of the round, you'll hold on to it and keep going. At the end of the game, whoever has the most puddings gets 6 points, and whoever has the fewest number of puddings loses 6 points. And there's several other different cards in here. For example, there's sashimi. If you can collect 3 sashimi in your round, then you get 10 points. There's also chopsticks. Now, chopsticks are interesting because when you play a chopsticks card, it doesn't do anything for you, but when it comes back to your turn again, you can play a card and then declare Sushi Go. Grab your chopsticks back in your hand and play a second card. In this case, maybe I'm trying to get the most maki rolls and I wanted to double down. Because the hands are traded with the player to your left each time, it's difficult to know exactly what you're going to get. You've kind of got to figure out, is there another sashimi? Because I need 3 of them to get those 10 points. Is there another one I'm going to get before another player plays them? Should I waste my turn for the puddings before the end of the game because I don't want to be the person with the fewest puddings? Or maybe I should try to get the most. The chopsticks. When do I play that? I don't want to play that near the end of the round because it doesn't do me any good. And usually at the end of the round, someone's going to be stuck with some chopsticks. And all these cards are obviously based on Japanese cuisine. Once you play, you'll total up the score for each round, and at the end of the game, you'll add up all the scores, and whoever has the most points wins. This is what's known as a card drafting game in a way, because you'll be taking the most out of that hand that you have. You'll be getting the card that benefits you the most, and then you'll be passing it on. It's a great game. I highly recommend it. It does play 2 players, but I would recommend at least 3 or more, because that's where the game really pops. And that is Sushi Go. So, those are some of the games that I consider to be great introductory games for people new to the hobby. The rules are relatively simple, they're easy to teach, and they're a lot of fun. If you have a game that you think would be great for an introductory or gateway game, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say.